Most people think their dog is being strange when they stare at an empty corner, lift their head toward nothing, or growl at a room that seems completely still. But from a dog's point of view, that room may not be still at all. Dogs experience the world through sensory channels that far exceed our own. Their noses are built to process scent at a level humans simply cannot match, and their ears can detect much higher frequencies than ours. That means a dog may be responding to faint sounds inside walls, subtle scent traces in the air, or distant changes in the environment long before we notice anything ourselves. And this is where the story becomes fascinating. Some behaviors we label as weird are often just dogs reacting to real signals we are biologically unequipped to perceive. Research shows dogs can distinguish human stress odors from baseline scent, which helps explain why they sometimes act differently around anxious people or tense situations. Veterinary sources also note that dogs may detect ozone barometric pressure changes and distant thunder before a storm arrives, which is one reason some dogs become restless or alert long before the weather changes for us. So this video is really about changing perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is my dog acting so random?" we begin asking a better question. What is my dog sensing that I can't? Once you understand that dogs are constantly reading a hidden layer of sound, scent, and atmospheric change, their behavior stops looking mysterious and starts looking intelligent. And that shift matters because the more accurately we read our dogs, the more calmly and confidently we can support them. In the end, the most important thing to remember is this: these foods are helpers, not replacements. A good, complete, balanced diet is still the foundation of your dog's health. Veterinary nutrition guidance is very clear that complete and balanced commercial diets are formulated to provide the nutrients a dog needs, and extra foods or toppers should stay a small portion of the total diet rather than becoming the main event. WSAVA guidance recommends keeping treats and extras to about 10% or less of daily calories. mercvetmanual.com. And honestly, that's good news, because it means you do not need to reinvent your dog's entire bowl to make a meaningful difference. You do not need a trendy feeding philosophy. You do not need to panic and throw out the kibble. What you can do is use a few safe kitchen staples with purpose. A little plain pumpkin when digestion is off. A few blueberries for antioxidant support. A cooked egg for protein and coat support. A small sardine for omega-3s. A spoonful of safe bone broth for hydration and comfort. These things work best when they are chosen for a reason, used in sensible amounts, and added on top of an already solid foundation. AKC.org. That is where practical wisdom matters. Not every healthy food is right for every dog. Age, size, weight, medications, allergies, kidney issues, stomach sensitivity, and calorie needs all change what is actually helpful. So the goal is not to copy a list blindly. The goal is to understand why you're adding something and how much your dog can realistically handle. When you know the reason behind the food, feeding becomes less random and more intentional. WSAV.org. And maybe that's the deeper lesson in all of this. Better health is often built through small, thoughtful choices, repeated consistently. A smarter topper, a safer portion, a more informed decision. Those little choices may not look dramatic from the outside, but over time they can improve comfort, digestion, skin mobility, and quality of life in very real ways. So don't think of these foods as magic. Think of them as tools. And when you use the right tool in the right amount for the right dog, everyday food can become everyday care. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share it with another dog lover. And in the comments, tell me, which safe food topper has made the biggest difference for your dog? Here's something that can completely change the way you see your dog when they suddenly become restless, stare at you differently, or react. Before anything obvious has happened, they may not be acting weird at all. They may be sensing a layer of reality your body simply cannot access. A dog's sense of smell is often estimated to be about 10000 to 1000000 times more sensitive than a human, which means the world they live in is not just more detailed than ours. It is almost a different world. Entirely American Kennel Club simply cannot access. A dog's sense of smell is often estimated to be about 10000 to 1000000 times more sensitive than a human's. Which means the world they live in is not just more detailed than ours, it is almost a different world. And that hidden world includes your emotions. Research has shown that dogs can discriminate between a person's normal scent and the scent produced after acute psychological stress, using odor changes in breath and sweat alone. Another study found that when dogs were exposed to human fear-related sweat, they showed more stress-related behavior, had higher heart. PMC dog knows when I'm anxious. That may be far more literal than it sounds. Your dog is not just reading your face or tone. Your dog may be smelling the chemistry of your stress before you even say a word. Then there is heat. And this part sounds almost unbelievable until you see the science. Researchers from Lund University and colleagues in Hungary found that dogs can detect weak thermal radiation using the cold, wet tip of the nose, the rhinarium, even when other cues like sight and smell are controlled for. The original scientific reports paper, De Lund University, .lu, SED, suggesting a sensory role. And the behavioral experiments showed dogs could identify warm targets at a distance. In plain language, your dog may be able to notice body heat in ways that feel almost supernatural to us. And maybe that is the most fascinating part of all. The dog beside you is not just seeing your home. They are reading invisible currents of scent, stress, and temperature all the time. That do not mean every strange reaction has a mystical explanation, but it does mean many random behaviors are not random at all. They are responses to signals you were never built to perceive. Once you understand that your dog stops looking dramatic, they start looking extraordinary. One of the strangest moments for dog owners is when a dog suddenly freezes in an empty hallway, stares at a blank wall, or starts acting uneasy before anything visible has changed. To us, it can feel eerie, but in many cases the dog is not reacting to nothing. The dog is reacting to a layer of the environment our senses simply do not register very well. And that is where dog behavior becomes so fascinating. What looks mysterious from the human side often has a very physical explanation from the canine side. AKC, ARG-USGS.gov. Take low-frequency environmental signals. People often hear dramatic claims that dogs can hear infrasound below 20 Hz. The evidence is more careful than that. Standard hearing ranges for dogs are usually described as extending much higher than humans on the high end, but not necessarily deep into true infrasound. What seems more likely is that dogs are exquisitely sensitive to subtle vibrations, pressure shifts, and tiny sound cues that humans ignore. That may help explain why some dogs become unsettled before storms or seismic events. Scientists from the Max Planck Institute tracked farm animals, including dogs, and found statistically significant increases in unusual activity before some earthquakes. But even those researchers do not claim dogs are consciously predicting earthquakes. More likely, they are reacting early to physical cues we barely detect, such as tiny ground vibrations or the first incoming waves, NPSA. Golf, UKMPG, D. And that changes the meaning of those unsettling behaviors. A dog pacing before a storm may be sensing pressure changes, distant thunder, or atmospheric shifts long before the rain reaches your window. A dog staring into a room may be tracking a faint noise in the walls, a tiny vibration through the floor, or a scent trace you do not notice. The important point is this: there is still no scientific proof that dogs detect paranormal activity, but there is strong evidence that they respond to real physical signals that fall below our awareness. So when your dog reacts to nothing, it may simply mean the room is richer with information than your human senses can decode. Acceite, orgozexek. Gov, and Maybe that is the most humbling lesson. Decode. akc.org, usgs.gov. And maybe that is the most of all. Dogs are not irrational when they act strangely. They are often being accurate in a world that humans experience only partially. Once you understand that their behavior stops looking spooky and starts looking intelligent, your dog is not imagining things. Your dog may simply be noticing the invisible architecture of the environment before you ever can. There is a question many loving dog owners carry in silence. Does my dog know what is happening in their final days? And the most gentle answer science can offer is this: probably not in the abstract human way. Dogs do not appear to sit and think about death as a future concept or wonder about what comes after. But that does not mean they are unaware. Far from it. Dogs live inside the body with extraordinary sensitivity. Their sense of smell is so powerful that they can detect subtle chemical changes we would never notice, and throughout life, they are constantly reading shifts in scent, energy, weakness, and internal imbalance. So when the body begins to change in a serious way, a dog may not think I am dying, but they may deeply sense that something inside them is no longer the same. And maybe that understanding can bring a little peace. Because it suggests that a dog's final days are not necessarily filled with the kind of existential fear humans imagine. More often they are moving through immediate sensations: fatigue, discomfort, quiet, the need to rest, the pull toward safety. In that state, what matters most is not an explanation, it is presence. A familiar scent, a calm room, the voice they have trusted for years, the hand that still feels like home. That is why love matters so much at the end. Not because you can change biology, but because you can shape the experience around it. Your dog may not understand the full meaning of what is happening, but they can still feel whether they are safe, whether they are comforted, whether the person they love is near. So if your dog is in that final chapter, try not to imagine them lost in thoughts of death. Imagine them doing what dogs have always done best: living in the moment, reading the body, and looking toward the one presence that has always meant protection. And very often that presence is you.